Hi, my name is Michael Bossetta. I'm a political scientist at the University of Copenhagen in Denmark. And my research deals with how politicians and citizens use social media during election campaigns. And while I'm here, I'll use this as a chance to plug a podcast I produce called Social Media and Politics. Its main audience is for students, so you can check that out on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.
So thank you. I was reading your paper earlier. One of the things you've been looking at is the way social media get used to spread malware for spear phishing. And so you've been looking at a model that you can predict that, and which had 5 C's in it. So you wanted to start by saying a little bit about how that model works. And how does social media get used to hack people's emails?
Yeah, sure. So we typically think of spear phishing as generally taking place through email, right? Sort of Nigerian scams. But increasingly, malicious actors are using social media as an attack vector to have people click on links that will infect their device and sort of expose government secrets. So I break down in the paper a model that, yes, all has 5 C's, and that is collect, construct, contact, compromise, and contagion. So basically, we put so much data out on social media that threat actors can sort of spy on us, find out what our interests are, and grab personally identifiable information, construct fake accounts in order to sort of contact us. When we accept that contact request, then they use that to, what's the fourth one, compromise. They'll compromise our accounts and they'll use that to contact our friends and sort of scale that attack up. And what we see is that you'll have threat actors target sort of low-hanging fruit, so staffers of an organization, and then climb up in a political campaign, for example.
And so what they're doing is they're creating a fake profile, and they're reaching out to real people and fooling them. And so what they're using is really the ability, this is the great power of social media, right? You connect with people that you've never met in real life. And they're turning that to the dark side, and you're connected with somebody who doesn't even exist in real life, but they're creating the profile with enough skill, they're getting away with it. So how do you deal with that? I mean, they're turning the power of the social media onto themselves.
It's super difficult, and the reason it's so effective is because social media are high-trust environments, right? That's where we hang out with our friends, and we're not expecting sort of Russian operatives to be there. But I think there's an important aspect of it which comes to the devices that we use. So a lot of these attacks are much more successful on smartphones because the screens are smaller. We don't have those heuristic cues to understand that it's someone who's fake. And because 90% of the traffic on social media is mobile, it's just a super conducive space to trick people. In terms of how we deal with it, it's a very difficult question because the platforms themselves push this responsibility. I liken it to a sort of offshore shell account or shell company. It's very hard to hold that company accountable. You have to go through the person behind it. So platforms are taking this position of exactly that. We're platforms, and the responsibility is not on us. It's ultimately on the governments who are accountable.
And how much difference do you see in this between the platforms it's happening on? Is it mainly Facebook, or is it on Twitter? Is it cross-platform? Where does this actually happen most?
It's interesting. It's sort of a hybrid strategy. So there's an interesting case I talk about in the paper, which is the case of Mia Ash. And you can Google the curious case of Mia Ash. It's a great report by SecureWorks. And the sort of way it works, this was run by a Iranian threat group called Cobalt Gypsy. And they took real photos from a Romanian photographer. And the paper's about spear phishing, but that's where catfishing comes from, is when you take someone's photos. And they would start by establishing a connection on LinkedIn, because that's it's a very sort of conducive waters for spear phishing. Starting on LinkedIn, moving that onto Facebook to have a friend request, then moving the conversation to WhatsApp, which is more intimate, and then sending an attachment via email, asking someone to open that link on their work computer to make sure it works. So there's definitely a cross-platform and cross-medium strategy that these actors are using.
That's fascinating. And that was being used specifically for political targets?
That was, this particular case was Iranian groups against banks and financial companies and local governments in Middle East and Northern Africa. So a lot of these spear phishing attacks on social media are cybercrimes. They're primarily profit-driven, but they're increasingly used. About 25%, according to security reports, are politically motivated, mostly for cyber espionage to steal secrets. And these once the malware has been installed, these actors can kind of hang out in the network and steal information and go undetected for years.
Now, I remember reading in your paper that one of the key things is they were using URL shortcuts. So they're not giving you the raw URL, it's like a bit link or a link or something. Have you seen any awareness by the shortcuts themselves that this is being done on their platforms? I mean, is there a recognizable pattern that they should be following up on?
No, but it's a key point worth discussing, that these threat actors will take a link to a malicious website and shorten it with bit.ly or goog.gl, these Google link shorteners, because this puts these malicious links, first of all, it hides them, but it also puts them behind a sort of trusted brand like Google. I was not able to find anything that says that these link shortening companies are taking steps to improve cybersecurity. Google has cut down, or sort of is phasing out its link shortener, but their reason for doing this is primarily profit-driven. They're coming out with a new shortener called Firebase Dynamic Links, which is primarily to drive links, deep links into mobile apps. So that's their reason. It's not much about cybersecurity.
So more generally looking at this, what kind of countermeasures are you seeing, and what kind of countermeasures do we need to see, both by the shortener and by the platforms? Because this is sophisticated, it's cross-platform. This is really the hacking version of the kind of disinfo that you've seen.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's a problem of scale. The same that we've been discussing. It's very hard for platforms to catch this, and ultimately they're pushing the responsibility elsewhere. I think the solution is in stronger verification of actual accounts. Like, it's so easy to turn and burn and create new accounts, right? With just a mobile number and these SIM cards you can toss away. So I think some sort of more systematic, more effective verification system would be one way in order to establish better authenticity in these accounts.
And something I've been thinking about a lot in the disinfo sphere, it comes back to the trust of the picture that you're seeing on screen, right? Yes. Somebody sends you a picture of somebody else they've stolen, but you believe it because your eyeballs will tell you that's a real person. Is the onus also on the users that, maybe before you friend somebody, you should set up a video call?
Yeah, I think that's a great way, but it's also kind of unrealistic. I think in professional settings, it definitely makes sense. But yeah, I mean, there's things you can do. There are certain websites where you can check a short link to make sure it's not a malicious link. But it's also worth going through your network every now and then and seeing how many people do I know. You can also download your data from Facebook, and this gives you a sense of who's actually using your data, and you can get a sense of what they're using it for. These are sort of checks that there is responsibility for the platforms, responsibility for the governments, but there's also some degree of responsibility for the users as well.